so again, this is stuff we've already kind of touched upon, but have you got any advice to professionals in terms of how to challenge the council now? And I know that can be in a number of different ways. So it might be environmental health kind of, dragging their heels. It might be gatekeeping issues. It might be issues where you've got perverse decisions. It could be things where the prevention duty has not really been used to stop someone, to stop an illegal eviction or something like that. What are the kind of general overarching advice you'd give to professionals in terms of what they can do in those kind of situations? And the reality being that sometimes they will be funded by the local authority, so would be particularly kind of nervous about making any waves or anything.
Yeah, I mean, most decisions can be challenged, whether it's by an internal review or it's by judicial review. Those decisions, they can be challenged, whether it's gatekeeping and they've refused to take a homeless application, that can be challenged. Whether it's the accommodation offer is not suitable, or they've ended a duty, or even just the steps in a homeless home, in a personalised housing plan, they can be challenged, but you need to get it within that time limit. For an internal review, there's only the 21 days, so you need to get that in as quickly as possible. And then it's not just getting that review in, you then really need to do the submissions as well. So you do need to request the housing file, which sometimes local authorities will try and say that it's going to take too long, and you've got to do a full subject access request. But you need the housing file, and you need to look at how the law's been followed. You need to look at the Homelessness Code of Guidance, which maybe can feel a bit daunting to professionals. But if these decisions aren't challenged, then things won't change. So they need to challenge the decisions, and if they don't feel comfortable doing it, if it is a decision like say if it's emergency accommodation, it's unsuitable, that can only be challenged by a judicial review. And I think people think of a judicial review and that's too big, I can't really do that, it's not really anything can do about that because it's just too big. A lot of cases they can be challenged just with the letter before action. So the letter before action can challenge that decision. And if you don't feel comfortable with it and you think it's a bit too much, then there is legal aid available. So you can try and find a legal aid provider in your area. I think is it civil legal advice that you can find and that you can Google that can help you. They've got a telephone number, so you can try and find the legal aid provider. If your client's on a low income, then if it's a homelessness decision, that is covered under legal aid. So you can then get that help from a solicitor, which will carry the extra weight. And then a lot of times with a solicitor, they will do that letter before action, and the council will listen to that and sometimes change the decision, and you can get a decent outcome for the client that you maybe wouldn't have been able to challenge with a sort of softly approach. I understand that sometimes councils, they feel, oh, we've got a contract with the council, we can't make the waves. But if people don't, then things aren't going to change, and things need to change, because the housing situation is absolutely horrific at the moment, and it's just getting worse. So I kind of feel, I understand it, and it's nerve-wracking, and you think, oh, am I going to be okay in my job after this? But then what are you doing the job for? You need to challenge, or you're not, you're kind of not in the right sector. That sounds really harsh, but that's how I just feel strongly about challenging it. So
I'm with you. Yeah. I think, I do wonder how much could be done with just a few, even it's not the majority of professionals, but just a handful of professionals kind of making those challenges. I think a lot can be done. But yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, and again, this is something you've already touched on, but this can seem really daunting for professionals, let alone people who are kind of juggling a whole load of struggles and stuff in their own life and kind of now facing eviction. And I'm kind of, it's something I've talked about, but I'll just throw it in there. Just the book by Luke Clements called what's it called? Clustered Injustice, and the Level Green. he talks about how actually for the people who, you know, we talk about this kind of thing. I guess I certainly talk to people about these kind of situations that arise, and I think most of my friends don't believe me. They're kind of like, you know, that just sounds too bad to be true.
Yeah.
But it seems to, you know, these kind of the kind of, it's the people who have got multiple issues which this kind of really affects particularly badly. So people may have a disability and a housing issue and, you know, kind of various other things going on. You know what, again, you know, and again, I don't think there's not an easy answer to this, but what can people in that kind of situation do about it? You know, what options are open to them, given that some services, you know, there's often kind of quite inconsistent quality of services in an area. So, you know, it's difficult to know which service is actually going to have the expertise to support you. What you know, what would you do in that kind of situation, I guess, hypothetically, if you were kind of faced by multiple things all at once?
Yeah, I mean, if I was the person myself, I mean,
Yeah,
that is one of the big issues. I mean, it is very daunting, and they don't make it very easy for you. You know, I see it time and time again where someone will approach the council and they think they've made a homeless application, but they haven't. They've just made an application to the housing register, because there's the two different parts. There's a part 6 with the housing register, and there's a part 7 with the homeless application. So I think that's one thing to always check, to make sure that I've put in a homeless application if I'm homeless or threatened with homelessness. And you know, if the council come back with things that they maybe don't understand, always get everything in writing, get the decisions in writing. And sometimes the decision letter is just mind-boggling, because it's, you know, section 188 and there's all this stuff in it, and it's confusing to anyone who hasn't actually studied this stuff. Really, it's, you know, sometimes I feel like it's intentional in a way to, you know, because it is very confusing. So it comes back to trying to seek that advice from somebody, just to help you understand it, but get everything that you can in writing as much as possible. Just ask for it in writing. If you don't like a decision, get it in writing, and then get further advice, whether it's citizens advice shelter, just trying to find a service that is a bit more independent maybe, and that can give you that housing advice,
yeah,
just to go through those decision letters with you, and actually help you to understand, what is it that I've done here? Am I part 6? Am I just on the housing register, or have they accepted a duty towards me? I mean, as we know, there's so much involved with it that you're just going to have to seek some kind of advice from a housing professional.
and something you said that's made me think. So when my colleague John, when we started out doing the kind of stuff we do in Bedford, I remember kind of saying to him, you know, he was going to his first homelessness interview, to like accompanying someone to go. And I said, look, you know, don't worry if you get chewed out, and kind of don't come out with anything at all. And so I say, you know, I always think for people in that situation, it's actually very difficult even to ask for the name of the officers dealing with you, because sometimes they're just outright bullies. But actually just kind of, you know, being able to kind of go back and say, well, actually, you know, what is your name? Well, you know, can I have it in writing? So it doesn't have to all happen at once. And that's the beauty of getting it in writing, is that it's then in slow motion, so you have got time to kind of, you know, think on your feet and kind of work out what's to happen. But
yeah, no, I agree. I think sometimes they can kind of bully you into it, or they can, you know, I've seen it before, where instead of taking a homeless application, they're kind of persuaded somebody to just do a hostel application. Well, a hostel application, you've then got the whole staircase model, and you know, you might get the move on and then you're in hostel, but you haven't, you know, you're owed duties by the council. You know, it can't be pushed off to the hostel. You know, you're owed the relief duty and the main housing duty. So yeah, it's getting it in writing, because some of the things they might say to deter you, they're not going to put that in writing, really. So, and if they do, then you know, a lot of professionals would be able to help you on that, I think.
yeah.